She started walking when the world felt too heavy to carry, and somehow the road felt lighter than her pain. The air was cold that morning, the kind of cold that bites through your jacket and whispers to you to go back inside. But she kept walking, one step, then another, each one softer than her heartbreak and stronger than her fear. She had no map, no fame, no cameras, just a small backpack and a promise. She made to herself a promise to walk across America. For the people who could not walk, for the ones whose stories ended before they ever began. Her name was Emily Carter, and once she had everything, she thought she needed a job, a family, a place she called home. But life has a way of taking from you the very thing you think will stay forever. When she lost her younger sister to addiction, Emily's world shattered. It was not sudden, not cinematic, just slow and cruel, like a candle dying without light. And in the silence, after the funeral, she realized the world would forget her sister's name if she let it. So she decided to walk to keep that name alive. She began in Oregon on a road that disappeared into the horizon. Behind her, the Pacific Ocean waves crashed like the past, refusing to fade. In front of her, the long highway stretched like a question waiting for an answer. Every morning, she would wake to the sound of birds and the wind shaking her tent, and she would whisper, "I'm still here." Then she would walk, sometimes for hours, before seeing another soul. She learned that loneliness can be both a wound and a teacher. It showed her the edges of herself and what stayed true. When everything else fell away, she met people along the way: a truck driver who bought her breakfast, a farmer who gave her shelter, a woman at a gas station who cried when she heard Emily's story. They were strangers, but for a moment they were family, and each of them added a spark of hope to her tired heart. Some nights were brutal. The rain would not stop, and her shoes would soak through. She would walk anyway, her feet bleeding, her back aching, her eyes fixed on the endless ribbon of road. There were times she thought of quitting, of going home to a warm bed and forgetting this madness. But then she would see her sister's face in her mind, smiling the way she used to before the world broke her. And Emily would whisper, "Not yet, I promised you." She walked through deserts where the heat burned her skin, and the silence was so deep it sounded like memory. She crossed mountains where every breath was a battle. She slept under skies so wide she felt like she was floating through eternity. She learned that pain can be holy when you carry it for love. On day 100, she reached Kansas, the middle of the country, and strangers had begun to follow her story online. They called her the woman who walks with purpose. People began joining her for short stretches, walking beside her, crying, laughing, praying with her. They brought her food, shoes, signs of support. One little girl gave her a bracelet and said, "I want to be brave like you." Emily smiled, but she knew bravery was not what she carried. It was love, pure and wild and unstoppable. By the time she reached Ohio, she had walked through 7 pairs of shoes. She had slept in abandoned barns, on park benches, in open fields, under thunderstorms and stars. And somehow the road had become her home. Her heartbeat now matched the rhythm of her steps. When she finally saw the Atlantic Ocean after 187 days and over 3,000 miles, she fell to her knees and let the wind take her tears. She whispered, "We made it." She thought of her sister and every soul lost to addiction, every mother, every brother, every child. She thought of how many stories never get told, how many hearts stop beating before the world ever knows how loud they could have sung. Emily raised over $200,000 for addiction awareness, but the money was never the goal. It was the message that mattered. She showed people that you can begin again, that grief does not have to end you. It can move through you and become something beautiful. She said, "The world will not remember how far I walked. They will remember why I did it." And when she said those words, her voice broke, but her eyes were full of peace. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is keep walking, even when the world says stop, even when the road disappears under rain and time and pain. You keep going because love asks you to, because hope demands it. Emily Carter walked across a nation, and somewhere between the first step and the last, she found herself again. And though her feet will heal and her journey will fade into story, one truth will remain clear: she walked for love, and love always finds a way.